to my Flosstube number 30. As you can see, I'm in my old spot. That's simply because I have so much to show you that I needed more space than I have in my craft room. Welcome to new as well as old subscribers. I'm so happy you're here. This Flosstube is mainly about cross stitch, but sometimes I also talk a bit about knitting, but I will not do that this time because I haven't been knitting since my last Flosstube. My last Flosstube was on May 20th, so it has been a while, but those of you who know that I'm a teacher, you might also know that the end of a school year is pretty hectic with exams and saying goodbye to old students, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of finishing up and stuff like that. And I was so tired. That might have something to do with my age, but also, just because you're tired after a whole school year. Now I had my holiday. I've been in my holiday for about a week, and now I'm here. I have a lot to show you. Since my last Flosstube, I have stitched 27,138 stitches. That means that in total for this year, I'm up to 64,800. I think that's quite all right. I would also like to thank you two tall stitchers for mentioning me in the last video. Thank you very much. I haven't watched much Flosstube lately, but I intend to change that in the next couple of weeks where I have my holiday, where I hopefully also get a lot of stitching done. First of all, it's time for Curators Corner. Hi and welcome to Curators Corner. First of all, I would like to tell you a bit about a website that I found. You might already know it. I noticed it, I think it's a year ago, and I just bookmarked it and didn't look more into it. And then yesterday I looked a bit more into it, and I thought, hey, that would be an idea to share that with you, because maybe you do not know the page. There's a lot of antique patterns there. I don't think you can, and they're all PDFs, but I don't think you can find patterns in all of the PDFs. Some of them are just with the history. They're just scans of old craft magazines. But in some of them you can actually find the patterns. And as I was browsing, I didn't spend more than 10 minutes there. But as I was browsing, I thought, that front page looks familiar. I wonder why. Well, I have the book. So this is an old DMC one. I bought it in the 1990s, very cheap, 5 Danish kroners, that's less than $1. I don't think I ever stitched from it, and actually I do not know if I want to keep it. Maybe I'll sell it, so I get some money to buy more fabric to dye. But I thought that was a bit fun. I will link it down in the description box. I have a little bit of haul. First of all, I did buy more fabric, but not my money. I bought it for the school because my new teammate and I decided that this class we are sharing next year, they are going to stitch their name, and we will put the names on the door. We will make flat folds, flat finishes of it, and then put them on the door to the classroom. And therefore I bought 11 count. These kids have tried to stitch before, but we decided on 11 count. I bought 1 meter and cut it out and zigzagged all, and then I dyed it in different colors that would fit the door. And I also bought 100 needles, and it's 24. Actually, there are 103 in it. And of course, I already made my sign because I'm the, what do you call it? I'm responsible for 2 classes next year, and on the first school day, I'm only going to be in one of the classes, and that's not the class that's going to stitch. So therefore, I already finished, not completely, but I did my name for the door, but I also want to put in some symbols that tells a bit about me. So there will probably be a needle and some floss and what else I can think of. And I'm going to finish it before school year starts again. And if I don't get to it, I will just finish it as it is, and that's it. I have made the patterns for the kids with their names, and then I'm going to find small patterns for them that could be a football or whatever they like, so they can pick 1 or 2 symbols to describe themselves. I hope that it's going to be a great challenge for them and that they think it's fun. Well, we'll see about that. And this was also one of my whips. I have that now already shown to you. Speaking about dyeing fabric, I spent 3 days dyeing fabric. The first day I dyed all these 11 counts, and the second day I dyed my 32 and 28 count even weave. I have discovered that I'm not that fond of stitching on 32 counts, and maybe not so fond of 28 either. 25, it's okay. It seems to me that I can actually count to 2 on 25, but I struggle with that on 32. So I am thinking about selling my 32 fabrics and maybe also my 28. Anyway, these fabrics I hand dyed this on the second day. They are all put up for sale, but I'm going to show them to you here. I'm just going to take the video clip from the German video and put in. I will put the numbers of the fabrics on the screen, and then I'll put on some music just to save a little time, because it's getting so warm here. And I mean, I know 26 degrees, 25, 26 degrees doesn't sound like much, but when you have high humidity as well and no aircon, it is hot. And I'm not that comfortable when it's that hot. I also had headache the last 2 days because of the high humidity. So I would like to get this video done as fast as possible. So have fun watching the blue stuff now. So if you follow me on Instagram, you might already know that I have made an extra Instagram account for selling fabrics. It's called Danish Stitch Die, and you are more than welcome to take a look. On the third day, I took the rest of my fabrics that I could still dye, that was still white, and then I experimented with the colors, and well, I'm going to show you a short video here on how they look. So you hopefully can see the colors the way they're looking, or almost looking in real life. Have fun. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching my hand-dyed fabrics. Yeah, more haul. I have bought some patterns. I have bought some mini travel patterns because I really like those minis, as you might already know. And I decided I needed more of them. And also I bought some mini portraits. They are not that mini. I think they will be on 20 count around this size, but it's still a small one. I mentioned in my last Flosstube that this silhouettes, which I bought, that a page was missing, and that Casa Janina told me that of course they would send the right one to me with my next order. So when I ordered that fabric for my school, of course I reminded them, and I got it now, the full pattern. I bought one more pattern because I'm taking part in this Stitch for Sage. So it means that you buy a pattern from Night Stitch Studio. Sage, the owner, is going through a very hard time with illness. I know the Witchy Stitcher also initiated buy a pattern from Night Stitch Studio Day, I think she called it. And then they also use the Stitch for Sage. It was originally initiated by Cat's Horror and Stitching. And I heard Kansas City Girl in the Colorado World mention it, and I decided I'm going to take part here. And I bought the Vampire Slayer kit pattern and have started stitching that. I also take part in the stitching challenge on Instagram called Summer Stitches Challenge. It's hosted by the Napkins. It's hosted by the Nap Time Stitcher. And I have succeeded in following it most of the days, except for the last 2 due to this headache I've had. But luckily the projects I should have been working on are projects that I was working on anyway. That's Denmark as well as the Hello Sunshine. So I think it's okay. That challenge is over in a day or 2, I think. and I hope that I'm going to have some time to stitch later today, but that depends on the heat. Okay, I think that was, yeah, that was Curators Corner for this time. So now it's time for my projects. I have, as I mentioned in the beginning, quite a lot to show you this time. I have 2 FOs, 4 FFOs, and 17 whips. And of all these projects, 10 of them are actually new starts since my last Flosstube. So the first fully finished object is this wisdom. I will put in a photo because showing, when I frame something, it's never with museum glass, which is why I prefer to show it as a photo. The next ones are these minis, FFOs. I think you saw this last time, but I don't think you saw it fully finished. I think you just saw it as an FO. I love these small patterns. And this is the White House and Santorini. And I'm amazed of how much detail there actually is in such a small pattern, especially when you watch it a bit from afar, which is why I bought these extra minis, because I can't seem to get enough of those minis. And I have a lot of mini frames, so I have to stitch something to put in. And I have 2 FOs. One of them you saw before, not finished back then, but it's finished now. They are on the same piece of fabric. It's Italy and Greece. I love these patterns. I think they're absolutely beautiful. And by the way, if you want to know more about the details, floss, what kind of floss, what fabric I used, etc., I have made a Google document, and I will link to it in the description box, and you're more than welcome to look. So now let's move to my whips. The first one is actually Buffy, but since I only did backstitching on it and I didn't do much backstitching, I'm not going to show it until it's done. And then I showed you Esther, the sign for the door. I worked 1 day on that, and it's 109 stitches. Then I worked on Halloween cats. I worked on it for 1 day and did 125 stitches. I love these colors. And I think the fabric is absolutely the right one for this. Last year, my birthday, I had my first ever birthday start, and that was Giles. I haven't stitched much on him, but now I worked on him for 1 day. It was part of the challenge because I had to stitch something with a border, and there's a border here, I think. And I stitched 131. I stitched this part. And by the way, it's in this very beautiful project bag which Stitchalonka gave me last year when I met her in Hamburg. And I really love it. Well, the next one, I just have to show you a picture because I don't know where it is. I think I put it in a project bag where I already had another project because I was too lazy getting an empty project bag. And now I have absolutely no idea where I put it. But this is Iceland. It's one of my new patterns, and it's the first one I'm doing 1/1 on per million. That's a kind of an even weave, but anyway, it's weaving like even weave. That means I have struggled to stitch it because my stitches just the second stitch always kind of disappeared. But now I watched some videos, and I have found a method that works for me. It might not be the correct one, but I don't care, because now I can actually stitch over, because per million is 22 count, so it can get a little smaller. I do not know how much I'm going to stitch on per million 22, because now where I found out that on 11 count that my own hand-dyed floss has a perfect coverage for 11 count, I might just stitch over 2 on these 22 counts. I haven't quite decided yet. Okay, then also for the challenge I had to stitch something with letters, and of course I decided to stitch on my Witcher quotes. Here they are, and I stitched on this. I worked one day on it and stitched 216 stitches. This is Sydney, the Opera House of Sydney, and you can't see much yet, but you can at least see how small it is. And yeah, it's also one of the minis for a mini frame. And I worked on that for 2 days and 242 stitches. The next one is the reason why. The next one is the project where I found out I really don't like stitching on 32 count. It's this one. It's the Musical Notes Cats. I like the motif, and I'm going to finish it, but I do not stitch much on it at a time. I mean, I worked on it for 2 days and I only did 325 stitches. I think my biggest problem stitching an even weave is that it goes so slowly, because I have to count and then recount to make sure that I didn't stitch over 3, and then sometimes when I have done a row, I did do over 3 here, and then I have to pick it up again, and no. I'm going to finish these projects I already started on even weave 32, but I have quite a lot of projects that I have kitted up with 32, but I'm going to change the fabric, I think, and then just struggle through this. I like the way even weave looks, but maybe it's also because I stitch with black. I don't know. But don't be too surprised if suddenly I put a lot more 32 count up for sale. The next one is an old whip. I haven't stitched on for quite some time. It's Halloween. I can't. But that's also an even weave. But that's 25 even weave. And apparently I don't have problems with 25 even weave. I stitched on this for 2 days and did 348 stitches. But still, I'm not that fond of stitching on even weave, because it slows my stitching down. And now the Stephen King house from the Witchy Stitcher. I worked on it for 1 day and did 517 stitches. As you see, as soon as it's Ada, I stitch a whole lot more, even if it's just for 1 day. I think I filled up some of the house here, and then I did this. I love this project. Unfortunately, I don't stitch on it as much as I would like to, but that's because I have a lot of projects I like to stitch on. And now the Vampire Slayer kit, the stitch for Sage. I did this. And as you can see, I'm actually trying to doing the back stitching at the same time. As soon as I finish the symbol, I do the back stitching. Well, I haven't done the back stitching on these ones yet. I don't think there's back stitching on this cross, but there's definitely a lot of back stitching in this one and on these stakes as well. But I think it's turning out all right. The fabric, it's kind of a test because it was bought as Christmas red, and I tried to dye it with black, but as you can see, it didn't take the colors that well, but it did get a little darker. So I thought it was suitable for this pattern. I worked on this for 4 days and have done 849 stitches as well as backstitching. And I think I already mentioned it, but anyway, this is Stitch for Sage, my Stitch for Sage project. And now another old whip. This is my Christmas stocking. This is the 3rd season I work on it, I think. And I would really like to finish it this year, but I don't know. I'm pretty far. I still need to fill out the trees and then to do the rest of the back stitching, and then of course to fully finish it. I've never finished a stocking before, but I would really like to have it finished by Christmas this year, but let's see how it turns out. I think I did all the back stitching in the first row. No, the church still misses something. I haven't done any back stitching here. Here I have done most of the back stitching, and I don't remember if there's back stitching here, but anyway, I'm doing back stitching here at the moment, as you can see. And because the fabric is so light, I decided to do a little back stitching around the white snow here, so you can actually see the snow. Yeah, but I like it a lot. This was one of the first projects I started after I really started stitching again. And if I could turn back time, I would have picked a fabric that was a little more blue, because I think that would have been better. But this was the fabric I had back then. That was before I started dyeing myself, and I had only just begun to find out that there were actually other colors to get on fabric. But I think it's okay. I live with it. I'm not going to restitch it. Oh yeah, and I worked on it for 4 days, and I stitched 1,579 stitches as well as backstitching. A project where I'm far behind is my temperature houses. As you can see, I only just started the month of May, but I did work on it for 6 days and put in 1,673 stitches. That means I put in all of April, I think. I miss a row, and I miss a row here. I ran out of the floss. But this is a very easy stitch, and when I'm in Stitchy chat, sometimes this is a very good project because I can chat, especially when I have already put in all the threads. Then I just need to thread the needle and then just stitch, and then I can easily talk without doing anything wrong. But as you can see, I haven't gotten to that yet, because I have to finish May and June and half of July. But I will get there. I mean, last year and the year before, when I was doing the temperature tree, I was 4 or 5 months behind, and I still managed to finish it before the 31st of December. That means the last one I always have to put in on the 1st of January, but you know what I mean. I think I'm going to do a temperature house thing next year too, but I think I'm going to make the houses even smaller. I'm still thinking about that. I will still have the roof, so I have to figure out how I can do that, because then it will take less time to stitch. But I really like this kind of geeky, nerdy stitching, and it's nice. It's fun to actually compare the years. Okay, this guy I haven't stitched on for a very long time, and I just thought I have to get back to him. Of course, I'm talking about The Witcher. And now it's almost outdated because Henry Cavill has stopped as The Witcher. But I don't mind. I will still finish this because I really like it. And he is The Witcher for me. I mean, Chris Hemsworth, yeah, of course I'm going to give him a chance, but Cavill was The Witcher. Is The Witcher. I spent 9 days on this, and altogether he got 2045 stitches. Mainly I filled out here and here, and I'm still struggling to fill all this confetti. And I've forbidden myself, I think I mentioned that before, I've forbidden myself to stitch here at all until all this is done. So, another new start, and that's also for the challenge. It's Denmark. I have worked on it for 3 days and I did 2,220 stitches. And then I noticed that this orange is the wrong orange. It should be a lighter orange, but I'm not frogging it. I just let it be. This is also a part of the summer stitch challenge. And I should have stitched on it the day before yesterday. As I said, I had a headache. And for this summer challenge, I also picked another old whip. This is a Sal, where I didn't even manage to keep up with the first part. It's Hello Sunshine by Caterpillar Cross Stitch. I have worked on it for 4 days and I did 2,229 stitches. As you can see, I'm trying to finish all the bigger motifs first. But since I started on this, I did the flowers here, I did this butterfly, and I'm doing this toucan. And I also stitched up here and this flower, so I did quite a lot. I have stitched the winter as well as the spring of these trees, and I still need to do the autumn. I do have the pattern, but I do not like all the colors in the pattern. I think it's too pinkish, so I have to think about which colors I'm going to change before I start stitching that one. But I don't know when I'm going to start it. The last whip I worked on is from Galliana Cross Stitch. Unfortunately, she has now closed her Etsy shop, or is closing it today. It's her Christmas window. I have worked on it for 6 days and I did 3,625 stitches on it. And I still love it. And at least now, I mean, I finished this one and I finished this one and a lot of the borders here, and now at least I can see how big it's going to be. Okay, that were all my whips. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Plans, I have none, and it suits me the best. So I'm going to continue on this having none. I like it that way. Please let me know in the comments if you would like me to do a mid-year parade, whip parade. And I think that was it for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care. Bye.